y'all ever had a dream and you wanted, not even a dream, just like a goal in mind, and you wanted to accomplish it so bad, but the reality is that once you start doing that action, or the actions to, make the dream come true, it doesn't really work. It kind of blows up in your face. I think a lot of times it's very easy to set very large goals and not know the work and the grit and the persistence it takes to get there, Um, and I feel like because of that, it's kind of a byproduct of, I wouldn't say being depressed, but ultimately I feel like it causes more negative than positive, It's more of a bad thing than a good thing. And I guess I'll try to get into what I mean by that in a minute, but,
Let's go.
I guess like growing up, I always thought, at least like when I was a kid, I was always like, oh, you know, I have to be the best at this, or I have to be the best at that, or I have to be good enough to wow people, And I feel like because of that, it's made it very difficult for me to kind of accept, like, it's okay to not be good at things, or it's a bad thing that I'm not talented in something. Because I feel like the people who genuinely have good talent are the people who get praised the most. And the people who don't, we kind of realize early on that, damn, like, I'm kind of just an average person. I'm just like everybody else. But the reality is that it's fine to be like that, It's okay to just be here. It's okay to just not be excellent or superior at something than other people. Like, that's fine. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with what I said earlier, I think it's very easy for us to start comparing ourselves to other people and kind of think that our efforts don't matter as much, because the reality is that the world is pretty big. We live in a pretty big world, and a very competitive world at that. So, you have to ask yourself, like, are my goals too big? And it's alright to have big goals. It's fine to do that. The problem is that if they're unrealistic, and that's kind of what today's video is going to be about. I'm just going to talk about how I feel like having big goals is also a very negative, or it could be a very, very negative thing, instead of it being a positive thing. You know what I'm trying to get at? Like, it generally just holds you back because you're, like, so focused on this one thing, you don't realize what it takes to actually get there, so you get demotivated in the fact that it's such a long journey, right? And I'll get into what I mean by that, actually, just, for example, I wanted to run a marathon, a big marathon, let's say like a 5K. I wanted to start, preparing myself for. Mind you, I have never, done something like that, And me just simply going out for a run and realizing, damn, like, this shit, this is, wait, did I've never been here before. That's so weird how that was an option, but yeah, no, like, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, the reality is that there's so much, like, there's so many things in the way of, like, these unrealistic goals we make for ourselves, and that's kind of the problem, Sometimes setting up these big goals in a way could demotivate you, and that's a problem. And I feel like if we live by this model way too much of, what is it, what's the word I'm trying to look for? When you objectify your goals so much, it makes things way harder to kind of do. So, for example, I feel like a lot of the times we focus on the value we bring, or the value of something else, and that kind of demotivates, or generally just makes things harder than it has to be. Because all I'm going to think about is what I have in return. I'm not thinking about the journey or what I learn from doing this one thing to get to this point in life, like from point A to point B. It's more so that, like, I'm thinking of what I'm getting in return, and I feel like that just demotivates so many people as well. It sure as hell demotivated me a lot, So, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that goal setting is a very hard thing to do. And I think it's hard because of the fact that we have to be realistic with ourselves. I think a lot of us want to shoot for the moon and kind of do this and do that and want the best for ourselves, but the real journey isn't the goal that you get, or like the goal you want to achieve at the end of the day. It's the consistency, right? And that's kind of what I'm getting at with the whole having big expectations and big goals at the same time could simultaneously just make you depressed and not want to do it. So it's very weird how that works. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, right? Being realistic is hard. It is hard. You have to come to terms with, this is what I can do. This is all I could do. Nobody wants to feel that way. Or at least it was hard for me to accept. I've never gotten hit by that ever until now. Where's this rabbit? Oh. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this game, but no, seriously. Like, it gets to this point where... And now imagine if you apply that to every single aspect of your life. This one thing I want to do, and I have this super... not unachievable goal, but it's a goal that isn't within my reach at the moment. And you assess that to every little thing ever. So, for example, when I'm trying to do schoolwork, let's say, for example, I was back in high school, and I wanted to get the best grades in the class, but I never really taken academics seriously, just hypothetically. And I start to realize, like, damn, okay, this goal was very unachievable, so I'm not going to do this. Or it feels unachievable and it feels hard, so I'm going to naturally stray away from it. And I feel like, at the end of the day, that's kind of what makes or breaks people. Isn't the fact that the work is hard, it's that you're setting this expectation and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Now again, this is probably just how I feel. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably have very realistic goals and know how to manage them. But, yeah, I feel like at the same time, basically doing the work kind of drifts you away from that, like, grandiose goal that you've had for yourself when you first started. Or in other words, what I'm getting at is that motivation doesn't beat discipline, you know? I think it's an important distinction we all have to kind of realize at one point. And it is kind of interesting when you think about it. And I feel like instead of, like, goal setting is good, but I think it's more so that if you want to make a consistent goal or something to look out for, it should be something that is within your scope or within your reach. I feel like coming to terms with that is hard. It's difficult because we all want to do great things, you know? At least in American culture, you're kind of told, like, oh, you could be anything you want in this world, blah, blah, blah. So, naturally, I think a lot of people kind of shoot for the moon with stuff because the reality is that we all want to do great. But then you get this, like, soul-crushing reality that it's a lot more than that. And there's a lot of luck involved, too. You know? So coming to acceptance with what you can do and just how much you can actually provide is humbling, really. It really is. And I feel like once you at least, like, master that aspect of goal setting and kind of what you can do at the moment and how much you could really provide, having a realistic goal is actually the best thing you could do for yourself. And I'm only saying this, of course, because I feel like a lot of people I know, they always set these big goals of, like, oh, in 3 months, let's say, for example, one of my friends is a streamer, and he'll say something like, oh, you know, in 3 months, when I'm rich and have everything settled, that's when things go. And I'm like, okay, but, and it's good to have goals like that, but at the same time, you don't want to get demotivated enough to feel like, oh, I can't do this because now that I'm doing the work, okay, it doesn't feel like I can do this. And you kind of give up on those goals. And I feel like that aspect of it gets demotivating. And I feel like it's okay to get demotivated, though. You know? Like, not everything is meant for everybody. And I feel like that's kind of the harsh truth of it, you know? That's the harsh reality of it. And I feel like at the same time, that's why success is just, like, amazing feeling. Because at the end of the day, not everyone's built to do something that's consistent or as well as somebody else. Sometimes things just don't come naturally to some people. And obviously that's okay. Right, like I just said, but you shouldn't also only abide by the expectations you have for yourself or these unrealistic goals. And In other words, as you're trying to accomplish something that may seem unrealistic, also just understand the realism and the reality that you're in, too. Because getting humbled is just as good as achieving that unrealistic goal, you know? Nothing wrong with that. At least that's what I found, you know? And I feel like when I say that, I wouldn't say it's nihilistic. I would say it's good to have values, right? It's good to have those like strong beliefs and values about yourself, because at the end of the day, it's just us in this world. So yeah, of course, be confident about yourself and do great, and don't let anything stop you. It's kind of a given, but at the same time, always be prepared to make a change. Always be prepared to make a shift, because we don't know what's really gonna happen. You know? I always get these like breakpoints confused here. Okay. Oh, they're up there. Oh, okay, I see. I see. Oh. Is this thing gonna... Perfect, okay. I think I can long jump this, right? Yeah, perfect. Alright. But, yeah. I mean, listen, like I said, I'm sure we all have stories like this. We all want to do something great, and then we kind of get faced with how much work it takes. And, oh, really, I thought there was a red point in there. But, yeah, no, like, I'm sure we've all kind of faced that reality of, okay, like, this is what I can do, this is what I can do. And it is humbling, you know. But the experience shouldn't deter you from if you enjoy the action or not. I think that's what I'm really trying to get at. We can't expect too much out of what we do. Because like I said, it's going to set this unrealistic expectation in our mind, and then what that's only going to do is kind of make us not want to do the thing. You know what I mean? Sorry if you hear like a phone going off, but yeah. It's good to be realistic sometimes. Okay, if that bat hits me, it doesn't matter, I fell anyway.
Here we go!
But, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure I'm gonna feel that way with whatever I'm doing with this. I'm sure I'm gonna get that reality of like, okay, I mean, I can't just talk about anything forever. You know, eventually I'm gonna run out of stuff. Eventually I'm gonna, you know, probably not find another game to play or whatever. And that's fine, you know? It's kind of just how it works. Maybe one day I'll abandon the whole YouTube thing. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll work out. Who knows? But there's one thing I would want to say to you guys is definitely just, it's alright to aim for the moon, but also it's alright to get that kind of reality check. And that's kind of what makes you, that makes your character, you know? Just how much you can handle, how much you can do. And that's what goals should be. You know, that's what you should be looking out for with goals, I feel like. So, yeah.